If you knew you were enough, what would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzette Birnard. We're back. It's your host, Suzette Birnard, and thanks for tuning into Season 2 of the Enough Factor podcast. Each week, we bring you compelling content that challenges the status quo and the definitions forced upon you that have absolutely nothing to do with who you are, whose you are, and why you are. Of all the podcasts and voices you could have tuned into at this moment, you decided to stop by and tune into mine. And so a sincere thank you for that. If this is your first time, this podcast is about redefining what makes you enough in life and in love on your own terms. And it's founded upon 3 critical factors of enoughness: your voice, your value, and your vision. To find out more or to delve more deeply into these factors, check out Season 1's very first episode. And while you're at it, do a binge listen. You'll be glad you did. With Season 2, we are up-leveling our message of enoughness from enough to more than enough. And to help us to do that is none other than melanated mom, Tracy Wilson. I asked Tracy for her bio, but rather than reading that, what truly got me was what she shared about her story. So if it's okay, I'd like to introduce her that way, in her words, okay? And here's what she says. I became a mom at 21, and then again at 37, and rounding it all out with my last pregnancy at 40. Talk about life adjustment. Whew! Defeat started to set in. Started raising kids early and then learning how to do it all over again late in life. I felt like my life was never going to be quite what I dreamed it would be, that I would spend all my best years taking care of others. In the last few years, I have been very committed to changing my mindset and training myself to believe I could have it all. During my last 2 pregnancies, I felt alone being an older mom, and I knew I could not be the only one. Could not find a group to fit my needs anywhere. And that was when my idea to podcast was born. I wanted to speak to moms from a very transparent place, to let them know that they were enough right where they were, to learn to reach for more, that being a mom didn't mean the end of our dreams. I encourage women everywhere I go to love the life they have. And if they don't, to do something about it. So please join me in welcoming Tracy Wilson to Enough Factor podcast. Welcome, Tracy.
Oh, man, what a wonderful introduction. I'm like, did I write that? Yes, I wrote that.
You wrote
yes.
And when you wrote that, I read it, I was like, oh my God, I knew I had to have you on my podcast because you were a voice worth hearing and you had a story worth sharing.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be on. Before we get started, I just want to tell your guests I don't always sound like this. I just told Suzette I put on my superhero cape today because we are all recovering from being under the weather over here. So I might clear my throat a couple of times, guys, but I'm here with you. And I told her I'm getting back to fantastic. So almost there.
Hey, well, you know what? We love you. I mean, you just have that little sexy sound in your voice. We can get with that.
I like it. I'll take it.
Oh my God. So now I'm a grandmom. And even being a grandmom, I remember when I divorced and found myself unexpectedly being a single parent. And so when I read your story, I could relate so deeply with what you said, because women are having children, first of all, later in life. And even my daughter-in-law had her twin boys after 30. So trying to raise children and yet having dreams, and you got to go to work, it's a lot, right?
It really is. It really can be overwhelming if we let it. So we have to learn how to, in my opinion, take control of our own lives and shut things off that are important to us. I find that in life that people have obligations for us. They have things that they want us to commit to and things that they would like for us to do. And if we don't ever take the time to snatch our time back and say, hold on now, my whole entire weekend can't be about supporting other people, or my whole entire weekend can't be about running around to do other people's stuff, then it will be extremely overwhelming, because you will never feel like you are doing the things to focus on what's important to you and to keep yourself in a place where you can actually take care of kids. It's hard. It was hard enough at 21 to do what I needed to do. At 46, when I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, I need my energy. So I can't allow other people to take all of that from me. So we have to find spaces to be able to say no politely and to be able to do the things that are going to fulfill us and bring us joy, and also concentrate on our visions and dreams by not, like I said, letting people take the bulk of our time for themselves.
Oh God, you've said two major things: saying no and the stress of trying to live up to somebody else's definition. So we are right on the street right now. So do you find that with dealing with, you have your Melanated Mom podcast, your blog, do you find that most of the women that you hear from or deal with are dealing with guilt from not meeting that modicum of quote unquote being the super mom? I'm the Angelo woman. I can bring home the bacon fried up in the pan and never let you forget you're the man. Do you find that there's a lot of guilt
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I find it everywhere I go. That first of all, the obligations that others hold for you, and not being able to meet those needs. I find women being guilty all the time, and I include myself in that. For example, I had 3 commitments that I was supposed to do this weekend, and I just was not 100%. So I knew that I have to go back to work tomorrow. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if I would have worn myself out on that end, there would be no way I could go back to work tomorrow. So I was feeling guilty about having to say, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to follow through on these commitments. And I know that so many women go through that. And we go through it even with our kids when we have to step away for a minute and do the things that bring us joy, or when I have to step away and work on the podcast, maybe at a time that everybody's not feeling 100%. But I have to think in terms too that in my life right now, I have a partner, and he is more than capable of taking care of the children if I have something to do. And that we have to let ourselves off the hook, because that guilt doesn't do anything but compound things like this, like when you don't feel good. I think it just aids in stressing your body out even more and not making you be able to recover well. And it just puts you in a horrible place. I mean, for me, I'm a Christian. There is no condemnation in God. God doesn't put guilt on me. So why am I putting all this guilt on myself for things that nobody would ever be able to do? There's no human that would be able to possibly keep up with all the things that I'm putting the pressure on myself to keep up with. So I find that I do it to myself, and I talk to tons of women who feel this exact same way all the time.
It's interesting because I'm thinking about, I'm a baby boomer, but I also think about millennials and Generation Xers and what we are teaching our daughters. And I know for me, when I was growing up, one of the first things I heard was, you've got to be 10 times better than your Caucasian constituents to get what they get without even trying. And that wrote on my self-definition. And I felt like, and then other things were like an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So I felt like I had to constantly be engaged in something, or I was lazy, or and taking care of yourself. Oh, to hear somebody say that, that was selfish, it was lazy, it was self-serving. All these negatives went along with it. But then I look at millennials and a lot of the millennial daughters that I see, and I'm looking at them because from high school and college, they are made to feel like they should be able to juggle everything. We put them in a whole lot of extracurricular events, and they got to do all these extracurricular things just to get accepted into college and keep their grades up and do all these types of things. And they get to college and they got to do the same thing. And I'm just wondering if we are perpetuating our own suffering by putting these kind of pressures that seem to just become reinvented in future generations of women. And we romanticize them and clap and say, oh, if you can hold down 50,000 different things, my God, you are great. And I think we're putting a lot of pressure, don't you think?
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And social media does not help at all, because it looks like everyone is doing everything so perfect, because of course we only see the highlight or reel of what people want us to see, right? And so you look around and you get in these spaces and you say, wait a minute, I'm not able to keep up like everyone else is. And so then that puts more pressure on you, where you feel like you have to do even more. And so I think that we have to come from a place as women that are more mature to educate young women and let them know that it is okay not to be doing everything. And when you are doing everything, you are doing nothing well. When you are putting all your energy in all these different areas, what is the one thing that you are able to shine at? Nothing, because you are so exhausted. You're giving your time over to all these areas and you haven't concentrated on one thing. And I just think it's not a good way to live. It's not a good way to teach our young people that that's what we should constantly be striving for. I think it's even worse than it was when I was a young person, because like I said, I did not have the social media to look at for even more of a reason to feel like I wasn't meeting the standard. So I think that we have to be real with them. And I think that if we don't do that as other Black women, that it has the potential to get really, really bad. You see women out here not being able to keep up, and even like young people like committing suicide because they feel like they're not enough.
Exactly.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. And like you said, social media adds another pressure because they're being bombarded, even with all the parental controls. I mean, when kids go to school and when the kids get with their friends, it's like you can try to put boundaries around it, but even in that, they go out with other people, they'll see a whole lot of things and all these images and all these things that are hitting them in the face and shaping what they think of themselves. It just really it makes me so concerned, especially for our women, because one of the things I've noticed is also with our women, a lot of our children are developing chronic illnesses and so forth sooner than our parents did. There's some things, my mom is 80 something and she's just starting to experience that at younger ages. We're experiencing these things more. And I really do think it's because of the perpetual stressful nature of our lives that we have normalized.
I agree. Yeah, stress plays a big part in how we are able to stay healthy. And I don't think that it's really being viewed as stress, though. I think that it's become, like you said, so normal that people just say, oh, well, this is what we have to do to be able to be in a spot that we need to. We always have to look good. We always have to be doing X, Y, and Z. We always have to be keeping up with the Kardashians, for lack of a better term. We always have to be doing that. And so they don't see it as stress. I think like me being in the middle of, I can remember a time without social media, and then also like really like being in social media at this present time, that there were just times that you were just able to be like, you didn't even know what people were doing.
Yeah,
you had
did.
no clue. If somebody didn't tell you that they, were out here saving the world every day, you were clueless. And I think that it just made it so much more comfortable for us because we didn't know what everybody was doing. And if I'm not careful, at 46 years old, I can get caught up on the hype. I can say, oh, look at all these people. Oh, they have so much fun with their husbands. Oh my gosh, their kids are so well mannered. Oh, their kids are in so many different activities. I have to check myself and be like, okay, so that is their life. And that is what they choose to do with their time. They probably not really even doing all that stuff. Let's keep it real. But if that's what they choose to do with their time and that's what works for them, that's what works for them. And not taking it onto myself that I have to add even more to my plate. Because then, like you said, you get into these areas of experiencing things as far as sicknesses and diseases that we haven't seen materialize in people until they were a lot older. And it's happening much younger because we are not taking care of ourselves. We're not.
We are not doing it. And you also mentioned that you had a partner, because I hear some people say, especially single moms, it's like, well, I don't have any help. But something that I don't know what it's like for millennials, but I do know for my age group, because I just turned 60, so I guess I am a baby boomer. Oh God, I'm a senior citizen, Tracy. Dear Jesus, pray for me. I'm gonna start sounding like, back in the day when we used to walk to school, and they're gonna be one of these people that's talking about that back in the days when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Oh, but I think about how a lot of us too, just because we have a partner does not mean we are engaging that partner. Because one of the things I had to really scratch my head about when I felt overly stressed, I would look up at my husband and he's sitting there with a remote control in his hand. And I'm thinking to myself, how many of us have been raised to almost bring that same mama brain to our partners? Well, I'll take over. I'll do this because he worked. Or I'm doing this because he's resting. I don't want to bother him. It's like we accommodate our men along with trying to raise our children when they helped us to make them, or even if they didn't help us to make them, they co-signed, knowing that children are part of the deal. So what is it in our brains that makes us want to make things easier for our men when it comes to children? Do you find that's a big issue as well?
I do, and I have to give you an amen on that, because we do those things that make us feel like we need to take over everything. Sometimes I don't even know if it's that the men won't help. I don't know if it's that they won't help or we won't let them help. We feel like we can do it better. I know that there's been times that I feel like I can do it better, and I just say that, oh, that's okay. I won't do this or that. I won't go this place because I don't want you to have to take care of the kids. But why not? Why don't I want you to take care of the kids?
Exactly.
They're your kids too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's such a dilemma though. I have to retrain my own mother all the time. She is in her 60s as well. And there could be times that I could be gone for like a whole weekend. Maybe I had something good to do on Friday night and I did something on Saturday. And she's like, oh, well, the kids have been home all day with their dad. And I'm like, yeah, it's their dad. It's okay. I don't need any extra reasons to feel guilty about that. They will be fine. And I think a lot of times we put ourselves in a position to think that they won't be. And this is my thing. As long as you're not bleeding, you're not dying, you might not eat the good meals that I might cook for you. You might not get your hair combed that day. It might be a struggle day. You might not have matching clothes on. But guess what? You're going to be all right. And he's going to be okay too. Like, you guys are going to make it. He won't let anything happen to you. So that's, at the end of the day, That's what I have to think about. And also, speaking more to what you're saying, we have to be okay to ask for the help too.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes as women, like, we'll see our husbands, for example, like you said, on the couch with a remote control. And what is my first response to that? Is to get mad. Like, why is he sitting on the couch with a remote control? Not maybe not say that I'm mad, but, you know, maybe put something down hard on the table or walk around not talking or whatever, because I haven't asked him to help me. And so sometimes men, in my opinion, need that extra push. Because my husband always says, if you tell me what to do, I'll do it. But in my mind, I'm like, why should I have to tell you? You know that you see all this stuff around here that we have to do. I shouldn't have to say it out loud. But if he's asking me to give him a prompt, and if I give him a prompt and he will do it, what's the big deal? Why is it bothering me that I have to say that out loud? So I have to check myself several times a week on that. Like, okay, so you can either be mad or you can just tell him exactly what you need. And then you can get past this. This is an argument you don't have to have, right? So
yes, because truly, it's almost like you are having an argument. It's just quiet. That poor table did not deserve for that glass to be slammed.
Exactly. You stomping around mad, and he don't even notice it. He like, well, you know, he's still watching TV like he was doing before you started stomping around. So ask for the help. That's what I started to do. I don't like the way that things are going. I feel like I'm doing everything. He might not feel like I'm doing everything. He might feel like he's actually doing something. So maybe we need to have a dialogue, you know, and that's healthy to have a dialogue about that.
It is very healthy, because I think sometimes we raise our sons different than our daughters. And because our daughters get raised doing multiple things, they got to come in, you know, they cook dinner, they wash dishes. And then a lot of times our sons sit down with the TV, you know, remote in their hand, or they might take out the trash and think that what they did was just super great. It's like and I honestly see this double standard with how we're raising them. And you're right, because if you've been raised to see your mama bring home the bacon fried up in the pan, she did all these one things, and your daddy got to sit down. Or you were raised in a single parent home where there was no dad and all you saw was mama doing the heavy lifting. A son is not going to automatically, when he gets married, have an attack of conscience and say, oh, my wife is doing too much. True. He's not going to do it. He's going to be like, he's going to be like, well, okay, that's what women do. I've seen them do it. My mom complained about it, but she kept doing it. You know?
Right.
It's like,
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
She didn't ask for the help. She just complained about it. But there's also something to me that there's almost something in us innately from when we are born that just drives us to do more. My daughter is 5. My son is the one that's 8. And she just does more. She had a fever the other day. Her fever was like 101, 102. And I was trying to do things for her. Like, I wanted to, like, bring her the food or get her. No, mommy, I could do it. I could do it. You know, she still wasn't, it didn't take her out. I'm like, girl, you ready for marriage? That's what I said in my head. I said, she just is like, it's innately in her to be able to still do things when she's not feeling well, to just get up and take care of things. And not so much in my son. He has to be prompted to take care of things. And then when he is prompted, it's not always something that he's crazy about doing. And I don't get a lot of pushback from my daughter. So, you know, something just in them as boy and girl that makes them want to do more when they are little girls, maybe.
Yeah, and then because we both subscribe to Christianity and all that, I'm wondering if part of that is because we are the extension, we're the evolution. We are man with a womb, and we're like, it's like taking something out of man that's more advanced in certain ways. And I wonder if that's part of that advanced thing where we are great at helping. I don't think the helper part means you're supposed to do everything, you know, take over. Right. But I do think that sometimes the reason why we can think much quicker, we can handle more things emotionally. You know, I think some of that stuff is innate. Yeah, I know there are exceptions. But I think for the most I see of men tend to move a little bit slower.
I can definitely agree with that. Definitely.
Oh my God.
And I think too that it's our responsibility though, as mothers, as grandmothers, aunts, whatever, to be able to also teach our daughters to not go overboard in that.
Yeah.
Like to be okay to take a rest. I often tell my daughter many times like she's like a giver and she always wants to like help people and do so much for them. And I tell her it's okay for you not to do stuff for people. Like, I know you want to help people. I know that you want to give this to them or you want to be there, but you don't need to do that all the time. You just need to sometimes be okay with keeping something that's yours. You don't have to always give it away or you don't always have to share it because that is not, it's not part of who we have to be. But I think that, like I said before, that it's innately in us that we want to do it. But then we have to also learn how to keep some of that for ourselves. And if you can learn that at 5 years old, as opposed to learning it at 40 something, then I really want you to know that it's okay that if you don't want to share with somebody, you don't have to share everything. It's all right. And it's not a bad thing. And I think that it before has been made to be a bad thing if we didn't want to be available for other people. It's okay. We don't have to always want to be available. That's where the no comes in at, right? The polite no, as I call it. I don't have to give you everything that I have.
Yeah, and I think that's where also taking inventory of yourself, because one of the things that I had to really call myself to task on was I would give. At first, it felt good because the giving, what I got back from giving to that person, them being happy about it, it seemed to make me special to them because I gave. But then what I found out, however, was then on the other side of it, when I would get to resenting having to constantly give and that person take, I had to realize, but you trained them. You trained them till you outgave them and they were a cheerful receiver. And you kept giving, and you gave more and didn't give them a chance to reciprocate. So if you're over here feeling resentful, it's because you created the situation. You love bombed them pretty much. You overgave and you didn't give them a chance to respond. And so when I started realizing that I was doing that to myself, I repeat, I was doing that to myself. People weren't doing that to me. I was doing it to myself.
Right.
I had to learn to pump the brakes and say, wait a minute, Suzette. Okay, you given. Okay, I know you're enjoying it. I know you're enjoying this new budding friendship, this new budding relationship. You're enjoying, how your personalities, how you got so much in common. You're enjoying that. But wait a minute, hold on, pump your brakes. Give that person a chance to initiate. Give them a chance to miss you. Give them a chance to seek you out. Give them a chance to invite you into their space. Give them a chance. And that way it took a little bit longer, but what it did was I stopped setting people up for me to resent them.
Wow, that's good. That's really good because it turns into a resentment. Even like I was saying, when I had to say no to these commitments, if people are going to be mad, I think about it like this, at me saying no, because you know the kind of person that I am. You know how I commit to things, how I show up for things. And if there is something that I can't do, then there is physically a reason that I can't do it if I made a commitment to you. So if that me not being able to follow through on that commitment bothers you that much, then we have a problem. We have a problem with our relationship. It's, to me, I feel like there might be some unbalance there.
Yeah.
You depending on me to do too many things. Yeah. And I don't put me in a position to never be able to have a bad day or never be able to be sick. And I feel like when somebody tells you that they're upset with you because you couldn't do something, but you did all the other things, it was one thing you couldn't do, then you're almost making me like a god. Like I'm never allowed to be imperfect. And I have to question, like you said, what part I play in that by putting myself in these positions that I never get to tell you no. And that's not okay. It's not a good place to put yourself in with people that you call friends.
Oh, it's not. And I have had to, I've had to really evaluate a lot of relationships over the years, because when it was my turn and I would say, listen, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I don't have the grace to do it. I'm sorry, I don't have the bandwidth to do it. Or listen, I just got married, so I can't just do things the way I used to do them, or I'm working for myself now. So the advice you're used to getting from me for free, I can't afford to do that anymore, because now that's my bread and butter. And when people go, oh, I've had some people really like turn on me like, oh, and it really, sadly, it became we had to kind of part a little bit. We had to put some distance there, because I realized that, okay, as long as I could serve you, you were okay with it. But this is a time I need for me, and you are finding a way to vilify me for it. Then that means something, like you said, something happened in the development of the relationship that needs to be examined. And if the two of us can't examine it as mature individuals, then I'll have to be okay with you having a negative feeling about me. I have to be okay.
And that's true. We have to be okay with people not seeing us in that same light. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably why in situations that I may have kept it up so long, because you don't want people to see you in a certain light. I mean, we always want to be viewed in a positive light, but when the rubber meets the road, everybody ain't gonna like you. Everybody is not gonna view you in a positive light. And if you as a human being know that you are doing the right thing, at the end of the night, when you lay your head on the pillow, you feel like you have done things properly, decently, and in order, you have treated people well, you can't be concerned about how other people feel. That's because true. There's always going to be somebody that's not happy. And I'm not here to make people happy. I mean, that's not my job. So I have to be okay with somebody not being okay with the decision that I made that was better for my life, because I have to live my own life, and I have to feel filled up at the end of the day. And my family has to be filled up. You don't come before me and my family. So if people don't understand that, then we have to, again, like you said, evaluate the relationship, because a lot of it is one-sidedness if that's how they're feeling.
Indeed, which goes into this work-life balance. Is that real, or is that a pipe dream to think that we can have work-life balance, or in the case of moms, self-child balance?
I think the whole thing as far as balance goes is a false. I don't think there's balance, period. Sometimes I am more involved in my life here as a mother, and I'm like really like putting in like tons of work. And then there's more times that I'm putting in more work on my job. I just think that in different seasons, like there's different things that require more time and energy. But to say that every day that I have, I spend, 2 hours feeding into my kids, and then I spend 3 hours concentrating on work, then I spend 1 hour concentrating. No, that never happens. I some days I don't concentrate on my kids at all. Let me just be completely real. My kids come home, we do a little bit of homework together, and they might watch TV for the rest of the day, because I might have something else to do. Or it might be a whole day that we are just focused in. We try to do technology-free days. So we might just be focused in on spending time together, and I might do nothing as far as work is concerned, or the podcast or the blog. Or there might just be days that me and my husband ignore the kids completely, and we are just like hanging out with each other, and they're doing their own thing. We're in the same house. So I think it's okay to not have balance, as long as we are putting in the work in every area of our life at some point. It might not be happening at the same time, but to think that we are going to have like this equally balanced day every single day is kind of an insane idea, because I don't think it happens. And I think that when we do that to ourselves, we take on way too much. It almost makes me a little bit scattered. Because once I get going on something, for example, if I'm spending the day with the kids, then I'm totally focused on doing that. That's okay for me to not pull myself away and feel like I have to go work on the podcast. It's okay. And I have to tell myself over and over and over that that's okay. That something didn't get done today, but you always have tomorrow to do that. So,
and I love your philosophy as well, Tracy, because in it, some people aspire to raise perfect kids, but you aspire to raise balanced kids. And I think part of them being balanced is to understand you don't get to have mom and dad all the time on your terms. And when you were a baby, yeah, you got us to change your diapers, to feed you. You ran things when you were a baby. And
right.
but as children grow developmentally, I think there has to be a reevaluation of the appropriateness. My grand twins are two and a half. And what I noticed with my son, he's doing with his children what I did with him. With him, when he would like make a spill, or he was trying to serve at the table and the sloshing of the food around, I got him his own little sponge, and I had my little sponge, and I said, okay, it's time for us to clean up. Come on, let's clean. And I made it fun. And he learned to clean up his own messes without leaving them and expecting mom to do it. And I've noticed with my son and his twins, he'll say, all right, fellas, come on, let's put these toys up. And he helps them throw those toys in the little toy bin. And I think sometimes the reason we're so stressed as parents is we don't know how to make the transition that our children can contribute a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more as they get older.
And I like what you said too, just in general, like learning how to clean up their messes. That doesn't only go for like a physical mess on the floor, but this also goes for an emotional mess, because we have to teach them how to even be responsible for their own emotions and responsible for things that they didn't do properly. So all of that, we're teachers. We're teaching them how to be what they need to be when they grow up. And it's not, they might not be like us. We need to teach them how to problem solve so that they can, in life, clean up their own messes. Girl, they have to learn how to do that.
That was good. That was tweetable. To clean up your own emotional mess. That's true, because a lot of kids, I'm finding, don't know how to handle the pressure of relating. They don't know how to handle the pressure of they don't know how to handle anger. They don't know how to handle sadness. They don't know how to handle the entitlement, that things are not going to just stop, and people aren't going to just, roll over and just give it to you just because you're you. And I think that's part of the responsibility of parenting as well, as you said, to learn how to clean up your emotional messes and to learn how to be emotionally intelligent. Emotionally intelligent. Yeah.
And if you don't get it at the stage and the age that you're supposed to, then that's why we have, 20-somethings and 30-somethings walking around here that still haven't learned how to deal with emotions or haven't learned how to take responsibility for their own actions. My son is 24 now. My oldest is 24. And I had to really check myself on some stuff concerning him. He was in college, during the whole college thing. He's a very, very successful DJ. He's done really well with that. And he was in college, but I think he was in college because we wanted him to be in college, because we thought that college was what he needed to do. So he did community college, and then he went on to a university, and he didn't want to do it. And I had to wrestle with myself and say, do I want him to do this and finish it because I want to say that my son graduated from college? We like to have these big things that we can say about our kids that they did, and it makes us feel good. It makes us feel like we parented them correctly. I had to question myself, like, why am I making him do something that he doesn't want to do? He's not interested in this right now. Now, that's not to say that he won't ever be interested in it. Maybe he will go back. I didn't get my degree until he was 8 years old. Maybe he'll go back at some point when he figures out how important it is. But I think that cleaning up emotional messes or being able to be physically responsible for what you bring to the table and who you show up as, we have to also let them make decisions. So by me forcing him to stay in college, what was that going to do? It wasn't going to do anything. It might have wasted some of my money that I might have been mad about, but it wasn't going to help him to make the decisions for his life that he needed to make. And we have to be okay with them not doing the things that we think they should do. They're not little us's. They have their own minds. They have things that turn them on or light their fire that might not light our fire. So I have to take like 3 steps back and say, these credits that he hasn't lost them. It's not like you wasted money, air quotes, like I was trying to act like we were wasting money. You can still go back and do that at a later date. And that could be his decision and not something that I pushed him into because I want to feel good about myself at the end of the day.
So
I should feel good anyway.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like we as moms need to clean up our emotional messes so we don't end up imposing that on our children, because our unfinished stuff we put on our kids and then get upset when they don't see it, don't want it. It's like, don't you know all I've sacrificed for you to do this type of thing right here?
Exactly. We start giving them all kind of I have a dream speeches. And it's like, okay, so is that really like helping your relationship though? Because at the end of the day, I have like a few things that are important for me, for my kids. And one of the big ones is relationships. Mm-hmm. Like I want to have a good relationship with you. I don't want it to be some strained relationship where you remember me as a person who always forced you to do things that you didn't want to do. That's not fair to you. It's not productive for our relationship. So I really think about what's going to make our relationship be one that they want to come to me, that they want to talk to me, and that they remember our relationship as one that is positive, not as somebody who browbeat them into doing everything that I wanted them to do. Because it's not okay and it's not fair, So I really emphasize relationship, and I think it's important in this day and age, like we talked about before, because so many kids they're just lost. They feel like they don't have anybody to talk to. And so now I want to make myself be another person that they can't come to. I don't feel comfortable with that. So I would rather you not go to college and me still be able to sit down with you and have a good time and laugh. That's more important to me.
Oh, wow. So what is one thing that our mom listeners out there can do today that will be a step in the right direction towards honoring themselves and honoring their children at the very same time?
I would say that would be that you would be okay with being who you are, and you will let them be okay with being who they are. I think that's being human. That's one of my favorite things that I say around here to my kids is that, I'm a human being too. Because I want them to realize that I am not some person that is I'm not some super person. I'm still a person that feels. I'm still a person that needs affection and attention. I'm still a person that desires after what's important to me. And I want them to get that early, that it's okay to show up as who you are, whether you be a mother or a kid, because being a mother doesn't signify the fact that you are no longer important. And so I want them to show up as their best selves as humans, but I also want them to be okay and allow me to show up as my best self as a human. And that's me teaching them that there's no perfection in this. I'm not perfect. I'm learning from you. You're not perfect. We're learning from each other. And if we see that as the thing that keeps our family bonded and keeps this kind of thing going around with us, then I think that we'll be okay.
Oh my God, Tracy, you were exactly what I thought you would be, even with your little Lauren Bacall voice kind of going thing. Thank you so much for sharing with our listeners. And could you let them know how to get in contact with you? I know we'll have it in the show notes, but I also want to give you a chance to shout it out just in case our listeners like driving or at a place where maybe they're thinking, well, instead of writing it down, I can go right over here really quick and look at what she's saying.
Well, let me say too that I appreciate what you're doing, Suzette. I appreciate you allowing me to be on the podcast. I also appreciate your energy. Like from the first time that I talked to you, so like upbeat. I'm like, this is the kind of person that I like being friends with. Like somebody who has a lot of energy and is just like sees the positive in life. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you for having me on today.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And where I can be found at on Facebook, I am melanated-mom. On IG, I am Melanated Mom Podcast. And on Twitter, I am Melanated Mom 1. So those are the places I can be found at. And I also have a website that is melanatedmom.com. So I would love to interact with you guys. Thank you so much for listening to me today. I appreciate you giving me this time to talk to you. And I hope that something that I said can help somebody else's mom journey along.
I know that it will. It's helped me even now as I reflect on what kind of space I want to create with my grand twins. So I thank you so very much. So there you have it, listeners. You are worthy. You are worth it. You are more than enough. Bye. You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Vernon. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.